Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente here with Astrology Unplugged. So go ahead and unplug yourself, and we're going to get into some good stuff tonight. The topic will be looking at charts to find what's the most popular subject of all, life direction. In the old days, no doubt about it, the popular subject was who is she, who is he, where is he, where is she, how am I going to match up? That's what everything was. That's all they want to talk about. I had a 92-year-old lady come into my office in a miniskirt. She told me she had to get rid of her 76-year-old boyfriend because he couldn't keep up with her. I said, woo! She was an Aries. 92. Anyhow, we're going to talk about where the planets are now because I've been not keeping up with them as well as I should. And then we're going to spend the rest of the night talking about the very difficult job, very difficult, of finding your life direction. But I was looking at where the planets are now. Take a look at this. This is phenomenal. Okay, let's see what's going on with my phone here. Let's go. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I've been teaching you by bits and pieces. I want you to understand how I see things, but why? Okay. I keep telling you that T-squares are massively important. In the bottom of a T-square, the opposition that forms the T-square is the major part of it. Here's another T-square here, so there's two. One's going to Neptune, one's going to Venus and Aries. Okay, now what's so powerful about this one is the orbs are very close. Pluto's at 23, Saturn's at 20, the moon is 21. The nodes are at 19 and 19, and they all go to Venus and Aries. So when the orb's that tight, and well, I don't have to tell you that this is all being expressed through Eris and Aries. This is why you're seeing people in the streets arguing about Columbine, and the kids standing up with their fists in the air, and all the things happening with the women, and all the women running for office, and all the men losing their minds, and all the shakeup that's going on. I'll tell you what, it's just going to be a shakeup. It's going to be a great, big, massive shakeup for a long time, at least 5 more years. And that's what we need. But take a look at this. Okay, the Pluto-Saturn is not going to move very fast. In fact, they're going to get closer. Now, in this diagram, the moon's going to move fast in a couple days. Venus is going to get out of the way. But what's going to be left behind? You're going to have this staying, permanent, semi-permanent, Pluto, Saturn, square to Eris. So it's not just that we just found Eris, is we found her when she was square to Pluto. That is massive. We could have found her when she's out there floating by herself. But no. Okay? So you don't even have to look at things right now. All you got to do is see how 23 degrees of Aries in everybody's chart, 23 Libra, 23 Cancer, 23 Capricorn, that whole cross, that's what's happening. 23 Aries. And remember, Aries has been in Aries since when? 1921. That's Megan told me. 1921. Got 20 more years. 120 years in one sign. And then we got more. I hate to tell you, we got 3 or 4 more planets to put on here. And I mean, I hate to tell you. How wide of an orb do you use with 23? I don't know. That's a really, really tough question because it's very generational. In a natal chart, I would use 9 degrees. As Eris is transiting, I would not use anything more than 2 or 3 degrees because it's affecting, Eris is not hitting you as much as it's hitting the collective. And yes, you're part of the collective. But what's so interesting, is so confusing too, when you think of Aries, you don't think of the collective, do you? Aries is not a collective sign, but yet it is. So what it's about, which is beautiful, how the zodiac is so exquisite, the singularity of the self, Aries, is mixing in with the Libran part of the Arisian part. So what it's saying is, I want to be included in the masses, but I'm not giving up my rights. I want to be a me in with all of you, and I want you counted, and I want you counted, and I want everybody counted. So that's why you got a revolution, and you got this pathetic constitution that can't get rid of some clown that's upsetting the whole world. Oh, well, we haven't thought how we do that. We got to figure that one out. But he's putting us right through the motions we need to go through. We need to go through these motions of a Constitution 2.0 for Aries' sake. Because these guys, whoever did it, these people did a phenomenal job when the Constitution was written. But there were so many loopholes that they couldn't think of everything. Yeah, Mr. Jefferson was an Aries. So that's what's happening now. You saw in the diagram, once again, you saw how this is just momentary that the moon is involved and that Venus is involved, but you're seeing everything is pouring into Aries right now. It's so strong, you're not even noticing the other T-square that's pouring into Neptune. But this is just super powerful. And anybody that's got a planet around 24 cardinal is really getting hit hard. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is life direction. I did this a long time ago, but I got updates to it. Now, when I first started in Pittsburgh to do workshops, a lot of people didn't show up, and I really think it was because they didn't understand what astrology was. They thought it was the stuff in a daily newspaper, until I figured out I'll start doing workshops on life direction with mini readings for free. Oh man, we're packed. Okay? People love to talk about themselves. They just do. So, in the old days, I would look at the midheaven. I would look at what side's on the midheaven. And I would take what planet rules that sign, and I would look at where that planet was. And I would look at your sun sign. I try to blend together a life direction for you. And I did not know what I was doing. I just didn't know enough yet. And I think I got to at least sharpen up a good bit now. Now, the number one thing you do with life direction is you look for patterns in all of the person's charts. The birth chart, especially the sixth harmonic, which is the destiny chart, that one. You look at the past life chart, which is the 12th harmonic. You look at all the progressions, whatever you want to look at. You get a flavor for what the person's like. If a person's full of fire, you probably don't want to put them at a desk in the back room. If a person's full of Pisces, you don't want to put them out front dancing. So you got to get a flavor for what the person's energies are like. Secondly, I'm giving you 3 big clues. Secondly, you got to look really hard at the sixth harmonic. The sixth harmonic is everything on the chart is multiplied by 6. It's put back on the chart. It is the Virgo harmonic, since Virgo is 6. And that chart, I have found, when that chart is constipated, when that chart is unmoving, when it's got failure to thrive, your person always reports it, I'm stuck, which doesn't mean they're stuck, but they feel stuck, which means they're holding on. People think that holding on means stuck. You're not stuck, you're holding on. But you don't know that you are, so you feel stuck until you can accurately assess what the stuckness is. Susan A and Susan B, life direction as artists. We could do some of that. Okay, now to you people listening on YouTube, on our screen, you can see the names of each person, and we have a chat box. So some of these people are chatting with each other that you can't see, and that's what I'm referring to. I'm actually not talking to myself. Okay. Yeah. All right. The third thing, and this is unbelievable. The most accurate thing I have found with life direction is trauma. Planets near the ascendant or near the nadir. The ascendant is things that happen in my early formative years. They say a planet's 5 degrees away, up in the 12th house, below the ascendant, whatever. I look at age 5 for the ascendant to meet that planet. Solar arcs, also called directions, are you move everything for 1 degree per year. So if you were born with Saturn and Pluto 8 degrees apart, I don't care where it is, at age 8 they ran into each other like a clock. And you expect something pretty heavy is going to happen at age 8. Now your moon and Venus 6 degrees apart. Well, you didn't even notice. I had a nice picnic that day. Your Mars and Uranus, like in Karen's chart. At whatever age, they run into each other. You have events happen to the minute. This is where Noel Keel is the expert on this subject. He's a very famous astrologer. He's also a famous, I think he's an opera singer. Yeah. I think he's Australian. The last name's Teal, T-Y-L. He wrote a great, big, fat book on solar arcs. A solar arc is not a progression. It's a primary progression, but it's not a degree per day. It's you take the number of degrees between the planets and you move them till they touch. Whether it's they move into square, whether they move into trine, whether they move into opposition. So let me show you, for example, we're going to look at Susan Avere's chart for the moment. Okay? Okay, here's Susan. All right. Now, you got to get it painted again so you can see it. So I told you we're going to look at events. What is your general nature like? We're going to look at your 6th harmonic. But I'm going to start off with the most powerful one. Now I'm going to tell you why. The reason traumas are so important is when you're raised with trauma, which most people have, and it's a relative term, that gives you gas in your gas tank. When you're raped at age 11, that puts a lot of gas in your tank when you're 31 and you want to work in a rape center, etc. Now, other reasons happen also. Many people grow up with planets not near the ascendant, not near the nadir. You could do different kinds of progressions to find it. But I always find the progress point. I find the date of the 2 planets. Then I ask the person, and I know I'm right when the person goes, whoa. Like, how did you know? Whoa. How'd you know it was 8.5? Did you almost drown? Whoa. You know what that whoa is? That whoa is people still convinced that they're individuals. And you're not. It's a really far out thing to say, but you're not. You're tied to everything else quantumly. That's why the zodiac is so phenomenally exquisite. So let me just show you some examples here. Now, in Susan's chart, there's nothing near here. Now, we could say her ascendant moved and hit Mars at age 19. 15 more degrees of Aquarius plus 4 degrees of Pisces. But by that time, you're already into your teen years. But by age 19, I'll tell you this, if she was not sexually active, she started giving it a lot of consideration when she became 19 because her Mars lit up. And the Mars part of you is the part that wants to go out and get. But look across the zodiac. Ooh, Pluto. Okay? So, as this thing was progressing, hitting Mars, this descendant was progressing, or Pluto was setting, either way you want to look at it. And we see that the descendant hit Pluto at age 11. Well, I will guarantee you she got her butt sat down on the ground at age 11. She got flattened, Pluto hitting the descendant, with relationships. In other words, she's a Sag and she's having fun with people and all this. All of a sudden at age 11, something happened and went, whoa, relationships are a lot heavier than I thought they were. Right, Susan? Okay. You don't have to talk about what it is. That's totally I'm turning your microphone on. You don't have to talk about it. That's totally private. But what happened was you saw the deadliness of relationships. You saw what somebody else can do to your feelings. That's no magician. Pluto runs into the descendant. You saw where you're not going to get off with just playful little frivolous Sagittarian promises to somebody. Somebody, we're going to mute you. Somebody delivered a blow to you about interpersonally how having to step up and be much more courageous. That was all planned before you took this lifetime. That's no coincidence. That's why I say these things with such certainty. Okay, let's go back to the chart and you'll see how it works. So that part, Susan, that part, I'm going to turn you back on. Being flattened emotionally, realizing the power of relationships and also the danger of relationships, years later, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years later, comes up through you as an incentive. I've got to do something in this area. Why? Because you want to stop people from being flattened. Because your best, how do I say it so clearly? Your motivation is to help people not get raped, to help people not get flattened, to help people not get dominated by the other, okay? And you're going to go work in centers to help this. You're not working in centers to help somebody. You don't always work to help yourself. Mm-hmm. You're repeating the work inside yourself, and it spills out onto others, which is perfectly fine. So I would ask you about that in a private session. You would tell me what was going on. It was Pluto Mars, so it's a very strong, very, very volatile thing, and I could probably give you the day that it happened, just mathematically. Now, let's get back into this. So we see Jupiter ran into Uranus when she was 2 years of age. Something happened at age 2, right on her birthday, real close. I'm not going to dig for that one. We're not worried about when the midheaven hit her Mercury, but look at Saturn. Look at Saturn, 16, the ascendant is at 1. So I would progress this 14 degrees till Saturn changed signs, and another 1.5 degrees. So from age 14, 15, 16, age 14, 15, 16, Saturn went over the top of your chart. And age 14 is already tough. Here's why 14 is tough. Because Saturn squares in age 7. It's opposite itself at 14. And what happens at age 14 is junior high and everybody's mean to each other. Why? Because you're not all walking around holding hands and you're one big glob of kids. You're now separating into cliques. My clique's better than your clique. Your clique stinks, right? So beside that, you had the double whammy of Saturn at the top. So what that means is you, all of a sudden, 14, 15, 16, you had to grow up fast. That's exactly what Saturn means. I don't care if she's a Sagittarian or what. That's what happened. And it most likely had to deal with her father. Not always, but when Saturn's involved, the moon is the mother, Saturn's the dad. Can you reveal anything that did happen with your dad around age 14, 15?
We moved back to the city where my dad lived And I wouldn't say specifics with him at that age. I think you'd have to go to late 16, almost 17 before big
Okay, but what
changes.
I'm talking about is what happened to him in terms of what you experienced. Because of him at age 14, you had to adjust. Was he away more? Meaning you had to be more of a father figure?
No, my parents were divorced when I was 7.
Okay.
So, he had been away a long, long time.
When Saturn gets to the top of the chart, what does it mean? It means I've got to stand on top of the ground, I've got to state my position, and I've got to become responsible for it.
Right.
And happening at an early age when you're a teenager is not easy. You're getting the idea what I mean.
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to repeat a story I told a long time ago. On the day that Pluto entered Capricorn, we're well aware of it, we're waiting. It's Friday, 9:30 at night, January 25th, 2008. On that day, before it hit, an older lady comes to see me, and she was very upset because she had grandchildren, and she really couldn't stand her granddaughter, and she couldn't stand her daughter-in-law, and her daughter-in-law locked her out. She was not allowed to see the grandchildren to this day. She still can't see them 11 years later. And she accused the granddaughter, the daughter-in-law, of forcing the kids through satanic rituals, which was really pretty off the wall. So I'm working with them. And this is the day Pluto's changing sign, so I expected something Plutonian. So I started to look in her chart, and I saw age 12 in her chart. At age 12, she saw her father shoot her mother in the head. She was in the room. She saw the father shoot her in the head with a pistol. The woman survived. She ended up growing up with these two people. Okay? Now, if that ain't the trauma, that's it. I can't remember if it was Mars, Uranus, but the planets that combine symbolize that. But what I'm telling you is that was the day that I learned to add that new element to my search routine when I'm doing trauma equals life direction. Because no matter what she ended up spending her life, she ended up spending her life working with some kind of organization where the grandparents are locked out.
Oh.
Okay? I can't remember. But what I'm telling you is she was really spending the rest of her life trying to stop dad from shooting mom. Mm-hmm. Period. It might look like this, it might look like that, manifest like this, but that was so traumatic. Of course, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to stop it because the imprint it makes on your nervous system. That all came from seeing the two planets be 12 degrees apart. Now, she was an unusual case, amplified by the fact that Pluto was going into Capricorn that evening. Okay, let's go back here. Okay. Now, we see a really critical one. I've talked so much to Susan about her Venus and Saturn being so important in this chart. Now, she was 1 year old plus maybe, she was 13 months old when this happened. And something did happen, but she probably doesn't know because somebody forgot or they kept it from her, whatever. But I can guarantee you something happened at age 13, and it probably had to do with her health because Venus ran into Saturn. Mercury running into the sun is no big deal. Jupiter running into the descendants, no big deal. And you can do all the ones you want to, like the moon running into Uranus at age 29. But that's during the Saturn return anyway. And the moon is involved with resonance. So we know that around age 29, she had to move suddenly. Something happened to her, resonance. What happened there?
That would have been a divorce.
Okay. Shattering to the emotions. So, your most accurate solar arcs are planets near the descendant, whether it's a planet hitting the descendant or the descendant hitting the planet. By the way, all these things work backward too. Exquisite zodiac. All your progressions work backwards. Unbelievable. You know where I told you progressions are a day per year? You can use any factor you want. You can use every 3.5 hours equals a day. Every 17 3/4 days equals a degree. Any interval you want. And it works. And it works backward. That's why it's so quantumly exquisite. Because it's a hologram. That's the reason why. Okay, so the point is, when I look in your chart, let me go through the 3 things with you. Okay? For an example, let's go through part 1 with Susan. Okay, we know Susan, who happens to be an art teacher, right?
History teacher.
History teacher, okay.
Yeah.
You do ours on the side. Okay, yeah. Venus and Scorpio has a lot to do with the history of people. The 9th house has to do with politics and scholastic endeavors, but when the 9th house is heavily populated, it has a lot to do with teaching. Without even going into the past life, we see that she's got strong teaching abilities. What is the sign of a teacher? Sagittarius. Sun, Mercury. What sign's on the midheaven? Sagittarius. Pluto's here. So Pluto, I've been telling you recently, the 7th house is much more than what you hear about relationships and marriage. The 7th house has a lot to do with your personage with people. The stature, the you that you are, that you present to others. With Pluto opposite Mars, what does that mean? Think about that. It's far. It's 8 degrees. It's out of sign, but it's still Pluto. Pluto opposite Mars. Okay, let's think about that. Her personage with people. See, you don't have to combine as much as you think you do. Just the basic stuff. Pluto Mars has to do with somebody who's violent, dealing with violence, somebody who's heavy-handed, somebody gets run over, somebody you're running over. Interpersonal and transpersonal power, exactly, yes. But it has to do with, why is she educating kids about history? It's clear. She's educating them. She wants these kids to know that what the Nazis did. She wants them to know how bad it was, how wrong it was. She wants them to know about the people that were forced to lay down, about the people that were the heavy-handed ones, whatever. Abuse of power. That's Pluto Mars. We saw when she was X amount of years old, she got slammed to the ground. What was it, age 12, was it?
11.
11. Well, there was your introduction to abuse of power, but I'm telling you that abuse of power theme was already scheduled. When you pick that birth time and you put those planets 11 degrees apart, it's all done automatically. You knew it, and the role that the people played, whoever that message was delivered through, it was all scheduled. Somebody in your soul group, I'll play this role this time. I'll play this role this time. So you get my idea?
Right.
So this is why we go to the solar arcs. Going back to her natal chart, we see, what do we see in the natal? We see that she's got a very strong propensity to be a teacher. She could be a politician. She's got Aquarius rising. She's got a strong Pluto. Now, one of the things that really gets in the way of being political that you have to take away from her now, she's got a T-square to Neptune. And Neptune people do not like confrontation. Pluto Mars people don't mind it. I was just reading, you won't believe this, but I'm reading the life story of the Three Stooges. Amazing. Shemp couldn't stand, he couldn't stand all slapping. And that slapping was real.
Wow.
It wasn't as hard as you think, but it was real. He couldn't stand a confrontation with Pisces. He bowed out. That's why the early movies, he was in the early, but the famous years with Curly, Shemp was out of the way, and when Curly died, Shemp came back. But it shows you, being a Pisces, Neptune people just don't like being unsettled. They don't like violence. They don't like that kind of thing. So you see with Susan, she's kind of mixed. She's kind of a mix. Sagittarius can handle this stuff. Venus, Saturn is very tough, but she's also very sensitive. And she's got a moon in Gemini. So does that make sense to you, that you have a mixture? So you can see by looking at the natal chart, it's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough to tell her with certainty what she should head towards. So the second story, what do we talk about? We look at her sixth harmonic. All right. Now, I've had a lot of success with the sixth harmonic. I pick her chart. I go to harmonics. I pick the number 6. I pick 6. The computer very quickly redraws the map. There's your sixth harmonic. Now, I used to do this by hand for paper for many years. You take the natal position of a planet, such as a planet at 1 degree Taurus is at the 31st degree of the zodiac. A planet at 10 degrees of Gemini is at the 70th degree of the zodiac. And when you're doing a sixth harmonic, 6 equals Virgo, 6th house, 6th harmonic. You multiply that planet at 70 times 6, you end up with a big number. And if it's greater than 360, you keep subtracting 360 from it till it ends up less than 360. Then you put it on a zodiac. That's how the chart is constructed. The same with the midheaven. You do the same with the degree of your midheaven. You come up with a new midheaven, and from that you calculate what the other 10 houses are. You see, Dog said that's right.
Cooper.
That's what he said. That's right.
Right.
Okay. Now look at this. Sixth harmonic. Now, I don't know. I'm studying this very hard. To me, it's the second most important harmonic. But I'm studying it very hard. Look at what she's got involved in the 3rd house to 9th house. This is the axis of the teacher.
Oh.
Pluto, Neptune, Moon, Chiron, Uranus, Jupiter. I have no doubt now. None. Teaching, library work, writing, magazines, publishing, something like that, but very probable teaching. And what separates grade school from college, if it leans towards the 3rd house or towards Gemini flavor, that's more the grade school, the elementary. If it leans more towards the Sag, that leans more towards college or graduate school. That's how you can tell. So we can see this, and that's why if you go through your life, Susan, go through it carefully, take the transits. What year did the transits go through there? What year did Neptune go through here? What year did Uranus go through here? What year did Uranus hit this Chiron? You will see your ebbing and flowing in the teaching field.
Right.
That's when it happens. That's why one of the great things about the harmonics is this. Without the harmonics, you keep going to the chart saying, ooh, what happened? Well, I just wrecked my car and it doesn't show up in the chart. I got married today. It's not in the chart. A lot of times it's not in the natal chart. And if you think about it, our harmonic chart is just a derivative of the natal chart. That's all it is. Now, I've had success with 6. I've had greatest success with 12. I have success with the even numbers, not the odd numbers. Don't know why. When I have an emotional issue, I look up the 4th harmonic. Tells me a lot. When I see weirdisms going on in the relationships, I do the 7th. When I see somebody who's phenomenally talented, 5th, Leo harmonic, etc. So you see what we got just from what I got to impress upon you is to use a pencil.
Yeah.
Don't use a pen. That's why we got a flavor of Susan. Then we looked into her traumas. Then we looked into her harmonics. So what we see very clearly, Susan is here to educate because of early experience or past life experiences of violence, of people abusing power. She wants to be an educational tool to stop it. And what is she trying to stop? She's trying to stop what happened to her at 11.
I'd have to really think about that. It must be something that I'm blocking.
That's okay. Give it some thought. It may not be it, but as you can see, when you get all the permutations, it could be 2 other planets that by solar arc ran into each other. Okay? I'm going to move on to our other Suzanne, and we're just going to keep doing this kind of treatment here. Okay, let's get... Hello, Peter. Nice to see you.
Hey there, how are you?
We're doing real good, thank you. By the way, if those of you who are tuning in by finding us on YouTube, if you'd like to join us any Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, it's an hour and a half, and all you got to do is get a camera on yourself and type in Astrology Unplugged into Google. And Mr. Google will take you to the link, and you could be one of us. We call ourselves Unpluggers. And what I like about that is we're not sure what we're unplugging, but we're unplugging something. Okay, Suzanne. The great song by Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, I've heard it many times on a date.
Oh my God. In the old coffee house days of college, they get up on the guitar and they'd sing that song and just flatten us. What a song. Look at this. You don't have to go anywhere and do any work. You could take a look at what happened to her at age 11. But what happened at 5? Now let's get closer. This is 25. This is 29. So it's age 4.5. This is age 4.5. There's 2 things going on here. The ascendant moved in conjunction with Pluto at age 4.5, which is usually the year you start remembering. But more importantly, Venus is her ruling planet. Venus hit Pluto at age 7. So between 4.5 and 7, we know for a fact we're looking for the critical point there, and we go down here and see another one. We don't even have to mess with the nadir and Neptune. We can just take a look at the 11 degrees here. So
hey, Rick, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Something very, very significant happened at 4 and 4.5.
Uh-huh.
And I would just like to know if there's any tie-in with the Pluto that was involved. I used to have this game. I used to see these concentric shapes on the wall, and I would like lay there until they appeared. And those concentric shapes turned out to be like what shamans might see when they go through the astral plane. But I had an energy ball go into my abdomen.
Wow.
And so I know that I'm getting regressions by like Mary Radwell and everything. I'm realizing that energy ball may have been a hybridization of some sort, or so. I know it sounds crazy to some people.
Well, it does not sound crazy to me, and let me tell you what I think. All right. When a person, I cannot express enough how important the angles are in a chart. When a planet is near an angle at birth, it's a big deal. And think about this. Why is it such a big deal? And here's why. Think about you're born on a space shuttle. And the space shuttle is coming back to Earth, and let's say it's close. You're going to have a chart, you're going to have the Earth there. Okay, let's say that space shuttle goes it's rotating like crazy. You don't feel it in space. But the moment of Earth, you have to freeze that space shuttle. Then you have the houses. All the houses are constructed and derived from the birth time. I don't know what the birth time is. Is it when you clip the umbilical cord? Is it when the baby's body's out? Is it when the baby takes a breath? But all four angles are established at the moment of birth. It's true. It's unbelievable, but it's true. But what I'm trying to say to you is, I've got Uranus right on one of my angles. She's got Pluto right on one of hers. Karen has the sun on one of hers. These planets are a big deal when they're on the ascendant. And when you look at the outer three, now let's include four now. Let's include Aries. When you include Aries and Pluto and Neptune and Uranus, they're a big deal. And I'll tell you what I found, Suzanne. I have found people with Neptune on the ascendant, people with Neptune at the nadir that see all kind of ghosts, that all kind of entities come in their room at night and sit at the edge of their bed. These people have extraordinary perceptions beyond the norm, without a doubt. And it's because they have a direct tie to such powerful cosmic energy. You're not going to sit here and reason it through.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit here and logically convince somebody of it. You say you saw it, I believe you saw it. Now, you may fight for years trying to figure out exactly what it was. I mean, I don't know. It's complicated. But we know for a fact, you see, before you're born, and I'm sure that our friend Stephen Poplin would agree. When you're born, you give yourself usually several years of slack time. You don't want to hit the ego with too much force at once. But I know people born with Neptune right on the ascendant. No time at all. Mm-hmm. Who knows why that is? But I'm telling you, there's no doubt about it. Suzanne is not telling us of a typical Libran experience. She's telling us of a Plutonian experience. Yes, a transformative, powerful experience, but you mix it all together. So let's go back to the subject for tonight. Let's go back to the chart. I don't doubt you for 1 second. Let's go back to her natal chart. Now, if I didn't know her and I was reading for her, I would see right away, boy, this woman is really intense. She's extremely creative. Okay? Even though these two are in the 12th house, this one is more of a first house. This is 5 planets, 5 constructs, very heavily in Leo. So what you do when you see the Leo, and you got the Libra, what you do is this. You don't go nuts trying to translate the Leo. What you start to do is you say to yourself, what would a Libra personality, a Libra female, be like when you add all this Leo? Well, one of the things they do, and you may have considered this in your time, Libra people are very, very good at doing feng shui. They love decorating people's houses. They love getting the creativity in. You walk in, it's big flowers everywhere.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, full of light. Everything's big and huge. And they love, you ever go to somebody that really knows feng shui, you go in a house and the house is just because they got it. So you see that right away by just mixing the Leo in with the Libra. You see, what happens in astrology is people go too far. They go for, what's this little link here mean? What's this damn thing over here mean? They look for this little mysterious key in the keyhole. Just ask yourself the basic questions. You got a Libra woman. Well, Libra women are not demonstrative. They love a nice place. They love beauty around them, nice music, nice clothes. But when you put the Leo on it, in reverse, what does the Leo get from the Libra? Well, the Leo doesn't have the class that the Libra has. It doesn't have the finesse. It's so fiery that it pours like a dragon. The Libra really smooths out that that fire, smooths it out. But they're both male signs. All the odd number signs are male. What that means is that they lean towards extroversion. That's all that means. Okay, now tell me why you had an OMG.
Why what?
Why did you have an OMG there?
What are you talking about?
Oh my God moment.
Oh, because look at all my plants.
Yeah, exactly. What's that station on TV? The where they do all the house stuff? HGTV? HGTV out of Knoxville. I call that the Oh My God Network. Because every time
but these kinds of Librans, they make their own stuff.
That's exactly right. Instead of buying it. That's exactly right. But that station, every time they walk in a room with, everybody says the same thing. Oh my God. Okay, so we see hints right away from your birth chart. But did you see I didn't do anything with anything else? Just the Leo, just the Libra. But I'm still using a pencil. Okay? Because you're not out there doing feng shui, but you are doing art. Okay, now let's take a look. Let's go in a little deeper. We see a Mars by itself, okay, and we see Mars in the 7th. And we see it on the cusp of the 8th, but it's in Pisces. So this is very complicated because Mars doesn't really want to be Mars while it's in Pisces, but yet Mars is by itself in a bucket pattern handle. So it means that you can be a leader when you need to be. You can be leadership quality. And where I like that, the reason I like that is you got this T squared to Neptune. And Neptune doesn't want to be anywhere near leadership. Neptune wants to be in the background. Shh, be quiet. Mars is out there pounding the pavement. It's strong. So we see that you've got the capacity to really go retreat into the Neptune, into the spiritual beauty of things. And we see you've also got the capacity to go out there. And what I've told you since I've met you, that Mars is so powerful because look how socially involved you are. You're just always going to meetings and they're talking about this and that. It's just amazing to me. Of course, you're in the city and I'm far from it, but yeah. You're very active. That comes from that Mars. So we see from the birth chart, we see a lot of capacity there. Let's go to the second stage. Let's go to the trauma. Okay, we've already seen the trauma. The trauma is so strong, we don't need to look for the other ones. The trauma is age 4. And yes, you can have multiple traumas in your life, but the trauma is age 4. Her ascendant runs into Pluto in her Venus. So whatever happens at age 4, 4 or 5, what I find with people with Pluto is this. Daddy shows them a magazine and there's a picture and it scares the hell out of them. Daddy doesn't think it's a big deal. Somebody watches Old Yeller and they watch a dog die. It's devastating. They've never dealt with death before. Pluto's always got to deal with death. So something at 4, it happens where you're so full of life, you never think that your ending might come, but all of a sudden at age 4, you had to start considering it. That's what happens at age 4, and that's why it's traumatic. Now, does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, because I do have memories. I went through this panic. My mother would come into the room and she'd rub my back, and I had this fear that I was going to die.
That's exactly what this is. But your mother wasn't doing anything threatening.
No. Not at age 4, no.
No, she wasn't doing anything threatening, but she knew at the soul level she was the deliverer of this energy.
Interesting.
But what I think it really is it can be sexual abuse, but it's usually Pluto, Mars. But what I think it is, like with Saturn and Pluto, you're forced to grow up way too early. You see the serious parts of life much earlier than you're ready for. Okay?
Well, I came to a really quick, early realization. I don't want to go into detail because this is recorded, but I was on my own. I was basically on my own, and
on your own at an impossible age.
Yeah, my mother was. She had dysthymia. She was always depressed.
Well, let me ask you something now. When I say to you, I meet you later in life, you're 50, and I'm doing a reading for you, and we look back and we see that the trauma is really the engine of your life direction. We know you've been into, what's the word that you do with art? You do it as
spirit portraits.
Besides spirit, I mean it's like therapy.
Oh, I'm an art therapist. Yeah.
For patients, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you connect art therapy with what happened to you at 4?
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I have a art studio in my basement now. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a full-time artist now. And
yeah,
so
but how does it connect to what happened at 4?
Well, how it connects is it's coming out where my focus, through having my focus on something external, is somehow tying into me. And I figured out for a higher degree, not right now, whether it's through Jungian or something else, I want to study the healing of this country based on getting the majority population to recognize the indigenous genocide. Now,
what I think that is, now this is very refined here, I think that is Aries' voice coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we can tell already, without digging too deep here, we can tell that trauma had a lot to do with fueling your art career, with adding the Pluto to your art career.
Oh, yeah, I got it now. JFK, he got shot, I think, when I was 6.
Okay.
And in the public school in California, they did have art therapists. And that was traumatizing to me because, and especially the Cuban Missile Crisis, that traumatized me. I thought, you know what? This is a crazy place.
Exactly. It's a threat. It's a threatening place where you can die.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I became an art therapist because the lady came in and did art with us about the assassination. And it just kind of made a road for me. I didn't realize it 100%, by the time I actually got my degree, but yeah.
Well, wonderful. Let's take one more look, and then I'm going to go on to one more person. Let's go look at your 6th harmonic. Okay, now here's Suzanne, and I'm going to do her harmonics. I'm going to go to number 6, which I've never seen or haven't seen for a long time. This is the 6th harmonic. This is interesting. Look at this. Okay, now look at Pluto Neptune. Look at everything in the 9th house of teaching. Uranus, Sun, Uranus, same degree, almost same minute. Brilliance. This means brilliance, way ahead of her time. Teaching. Also, with Uranus involved, the reason you teach in the 6th harmonic is you want to draw out of the people their own individuality. You want to pull that out of them. It's not a Libra. It's not a Libra interest. That's a Uranian interest. Okay, and then you got Chiron right there, and then you got Aries right there. So you got a powerful need to teach. We see that this T-square is really important. The Pluto-Neptune opposite to Saturn, that's all the social stuff, all going down to Mars in Sag. What is Mars in Sag doing in the 4th house? This is easy to skip over, but it's very important to look at. And I'll tell you another thing, Suzanne. You need to go back through time and look at any planet that went over 20, 23 degrees Sag. Remember what we started the evening with? Pluto is now at, Aries is now at 23 of Aries, which is trying to this.
Mm-hmm.
So Aries is feeding his Mars perfectly right now. Mars and Sag in the 4th house means I'm using a lot of emotional energy. I'm trying to heal my emotional lineage. You're not just working with kids or adults, you're working to resolve things that were passed down to you through your lineage, which is the fourth house.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you add up all three of those things, you can see it's pretty darn interesting. Okay, good enough?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now go play with that.
Mm-hmm.
Play with that. I'm going to move to Abigail or Megan. And, okay, there's Megan. Let's get her on the screen. Okay, I got to get the chart on the screen. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Now we take a look at this chart of a Taurus woman. Got the wrong chart here. There it is. Okay. There she is. We've got the chart here of a Capricorn woman with the sun next to Jupiter. She does lawyering for immigration in Texas. A really hot topic. Venus and Mars in lovely Pisces opposite the moon. Look at Pluto. We automatically know where we got to go for our trauma, don't we? Boom. Imagine you being born in a space shuttle. Every 3 seconds, Pluto crossed the nadir. Just unbelievable. The house system, whoever figured out the house system was just such a genius. And that's why they have all the different ones. Placidus, Regio Montanus, all the different ones. Coach. Okay, we know Pluto's a great big deal. We know Uranus is a big deal because it's a point of a T-square. Okay? We see some rather personal planets, Moon opposite Venus, Mars, sending their energies down to Uranus and Sag, which is a really good way to get it out. That Uranus and Sag has a lot to do with fighting for causes. Okay? Why are you fighting for causes? To resolve your own internal ping-ponging of your own feelings. All right? We got Chiron up in Gemini, liking to meet people, liking to work on different types of law, different kinds of problems. We got her Aries up in the 9th house, strong philosophical background. The chart is basically a really smooth chart. We have Leo rising, which I really think helps out the Capricorn. As Capricorn, we tend to hold everything in. The Leo helps you get it out. And the moon in Virgo, well, I was married to a woman for 20 years with the sun in Capricorn, moon in Virgo. So I know a good bit about that. And it is trine, sun-moon trine. Well, the sun-moon trine is so strong. I cannot emphasize enough how strong trines are. They're almost always all positive, almost always. And I have seen people with sun-moon trine, you can play king and hill with them and batter them all you want, and they come out standing. They're just upright and standing. They're resilient. So we know where a lot of that comes from. Okay, so we don't know enough about the natal chart to really advise Megan what her life direction is. Okay, let's go to the second thing. Let's go to the solar arcs. All right, the solar arc within 10/60ths, within 2 months, At age 2 months, and this comes down, you can't even depend on that anymore because the birth time could be off by 1 minute. This thing moves a degree every 4 minutes. So around 2 months of age, Pluto hit the nadir in Scorpio. So I would tell you that it's a very good chance that you came close to death. Something probably happened to you at age 2 months, 1.5 months, 2.5 months, around in that area, where you almost died. Now, if you didn't almost die, you were probably subjected to seeing death. I don't know, but you can see that you were programmed to tune into Pluto right on at a very early age, and it's so strong that I would say to you, you are as much Scorpion as you are Capricorn. Okay. And that's because of Pluto nadir. You see all these articles you read. Oh, Geminis are good with Sagittarius. Oh, the Aries marry the Libra. Such BS. People are BS because of money. Until you bring the whole chart in. You're very Scorpionic. And it's because of the Pluto placement. It's not your Pisces planets. But what does that mean? When you're very Scorpionic, it means you find a lot of people flat. They're flat. They don't interest you. They don't have enough pizzazz and passion. That's why Venus is in its fall in Scorpio. Because you gotta have a passionate interest. That's Pluto. Whoa. But you get the problems that come with it. Anybody, and I will guarantee you this is true for her, anybody with a strong Pluto, anybody, their whole life will be, their whole life will always be that way. Always. Comes right out of Stephen Arroyo. Why? Because they're bored when it's down here. So they get involved and they take a big chunk out of something interesting and spicy. Then they're back up here. Then they're back down. So it's only when they get older they start to appreciate, maybe a sine wave like this.
Hopefully I'm getting to that soon.
That makes sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So we see, what do you have to say about Pluto hitting you at such an early age? Did you hear any stories about you at age 2 months?
I know I was born prematurely 6 or 7 weeks, and I spent some time in the hospital. And also my parents were fighting all the time. So although I might not remember it, that's what I grew up in.
There you go. Because I know it. There you go, because the nadir is the soil in which you are planted. Now, I will go this far. And isn't it fascinating that she works in the legal matters with immigrants? I mean, what's that about? Getting you seated, getting you planted. You can't live where you live. Let's bring you here. And I don't want you here to get up on billboards and do a dance. I just want you to bring your family, live and be happy. Right? Good Capricorn, a sane Capricorn. I want you to get established. Go live your life. I don't want to live your life for you, but I got you here. We got through the legalities. Okay, now let's think about that. That's really heavy duty. What does that mean? Do you see what we're doing here? Why was it so hard for you to get here? That's what this means. You're not immigrating people. You're constantly redoing your own immigration into this incarnation. So we'll look at your 12th harmonic, which I've not done yet. Okay, let's go to the 12th. Here she is. All right. Let's go to the harmonics. Let's go to number 12. Did you find your satellite? Did you? Good for you. Okay. Now, the 12th harmonic, I call the past life chart. I'm still struggling to find the right name for it. To me, it is the spiritual transcript. The history of your lives trying to get back to God. So we got problems here. First of all, when there's a whole school of thought to this. When Pluto's near the angle, it almost always means that the birth itself was difficult, that you almost died during the birth. When Neptune's there, it can mean, I forget which Neptune is. Uranus is complications and it's accidents and things come from out of nowhere. There's a whole school of thought that goes back to Richard Tarnas and his group, where they itemize all the outer planets. Okay, so we go to the 12th harmonic, and we take a look, and we say, what's unusual here? Well, Pluto's up near the top, near Chiron, and these things even work with solar arcs. That's what's amazing. So you can ask yourself what happened in age 6 with Pluto. Okay, the planets are pretty spread out. That's a very good sign that she's pretty balanced. The Moon and Mars are very well placed there. Saturn is well placed here. What are we looking at? We're looking again at this. When Pluto hits Chiron and when Pluto hits the midheaven, we're looking at age 9. We're also looking at age 6. So we want to know what happened in ages 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, my mother began drinking and she was always a heavy drinker, but it really escalated during those years.
Okay, now that did that on purpose, and the reason it did it was because it put more pressure on you to grow up fast and have to stand on your own. Okay, so what I'm getting to is what trauma do you think you had fuels your interest in the type of work that you do?
I relate with what you say about helping plant people. Yeah, so they're fleeing some sort of instability.
That's right. Now, the planting of people is what sign?
Taurus?
Taurus. Right. That's exactly right. Well, you don't have the Taurus. So I spoke a little bit incorrectly. The Capricorn part is the making sure. Everybody loves the bad-mouthed Capricorn. Oh, the Saturn crap that you hear from these people. Take Saturn off their chart. Watch them all fly off the wing. Saturn is the making sure. I don't want to go to a lawyer that's, well, I sort of think your papers are okay there, honey. I want to go to the lawyer that says, I got it. I'm sure you'll be in there. Right? That's the beautiful thing of Capricorn that is so underrated. So take that, YouTube. That's really the truth. That's it. So what we're seeing here, you know what I'm saying? I see a lot of vacillation. Did you want to take a new life or not? I really think you were going back and forth. You wanted to, but you didn't. When I met Stephen Poplin 18 years ago, he took me in regressive hypnosis, and we were sitting near a waterfall. We're sitting there next to each other in this huge waterfall. He says, do you want, he's starting to push me into the water. He said, do you want to take a new life? I went, mm-mm. He said, yeah, dear. I said, And he pushed me, and I went, whoosh, and I was upside down inside my mother. That's how I experienced it. So what I'm seeing in your chart, now this is interesting. You're going to think very clearly here. There's a reluctance to take a new life Because what? Because the world's too damn violent. This level. But you still want to come back. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
I've always sort of attributed this to the Pisces part of me, but maybe not. It's just so hard to, it's such a cruel world and everyone's being so mean to each other.
That makes a lot of sense, and it really disturbs Pisces. It really does, because Pisces is born with this. Nothing matters. Why are you fighting over this thing? Okay, so now we're seeing a real clarity, and we're doing solar arcs from a harmonic chart, not even from the natal. So we need to do the 6th harmonic. Did we do that? I can't keep it all straight. No, we didn't. Okay, let's look at the 6th, see what it says. I'll tell you what I do. I have a lot of people, of course, that come to me and they're stuck. That's what they say. One of the first things I look at is their 6th harmonic. Is it plugged up? Is some transit going on? And a lot of times I see a planet directly hitting another planet in the 6th harmonic that implies you got to move past this blockage. So it's very intriguing to watch. Oh, there you are. Okay, Megan. Interesting again. Look at this. This is Aries. Nobody will be left out. You're all included. We're all brothers. I rest my case. Cancer, the family. I rest my case. I got nothing else to look at. See how easy that was?
Yeah.
Why did I make a big deal? Because there's a bucket pattern. The planet's all by itself. A lot of harmonics, you're going to find pieces that you'll never find out what it means. Just don't sweat it. Close the damn chart. Go on to the next one. Don't worry about it. But did you see how that chart makes so much sense? She comes into a lifetime. She's not sure whether she wants to. To me, it's because she's a very advanced soul. She comes into a dangerous situation, which her Pisces planets needed, because she needed to find that salvation in residing in her Pisces part of herself. The beautiful part, the poetry part, the music part, the quiet part. It was a really good, a real good example. Tonight's been a very good example of you take the chart, what's the person's flavor like? What do they like? We saw where Suzanne is very Libran, but she's also very Leonine and very Scorpionic. We saw where Megan is very Scorpionic. Then we did his 6th harmonics. They don't always work as cleanly as you might think because they're not a natal chart. Then we looked at the traumas. With that, I'm going to say goodnight to you all YouTubers out there, and thank you for joining in. Join us next week.